We kick things off with some posters announcing the grand finals of a World Jiu-Jitsu Championship. The narration explains that with less than a minute to go, we're about to find out who the new grand champion will be. On the mat, our protagonist is pinning his opponent to maintain his advantage. You can see the sweat and determination on his face. This victory means everything to our boy. With that, the scoreboard shows a 5-point lead, and he just needs to hang on for 15 more seconds. Suddenly, the unexpected happens, and the tide of this final match begins to shift dramatically. With a swift move, his adversary manages to reverse the position, slamming our guy against the mat. Then the other guy quickly gets on top, applying a hold to try and finish the match for good. The man manages to lock in an armbar, putting our young hero in a very tight spot. Even through the intense pain, he thinks he just needs to hold out for 10 more seconds to win the tournament. His body is at its limit, but the fighter refuses to give up on his dream that easily. In his mind, he remembers that this was his life's greatest goal, and he couldn't just give in. Both competitors are at their physical and mental limits, but neither of them plans on giving up the victory. But in the end, our protagonist endured the pain until the very last second and achieved his long-awaited victory, collapsing in exhaustion. But even after winning, the young man seems shaken by something, as if he's not happy with the result. He's on the podium in first place, but his expression is empty, a stark contrast to the other competitors. Elsewhere, we see the protagonist operating some machinery. His coworker calls him over for a drink, but our guy turns him down, saying he needs to get home early. Then his brother-in-law insists on the drink and jokes, asking if he's picking up the tab this time. He replies that he'll pay when Mina gets into college, but his brother-in-law reminds him she's barely even started school. The two continue walking through the worksite, which looks like a construction zone with a cracked floor. In a flashback, he remembers that the moment he achieved his dream was the moment he lost it completely. Despite refusing earlier, the two are now clinking glasses of an alcoholic beverage in a bar. Our guy thanks his brother-in-law for everything, but the man just tells him not to get all sentimental. The young man confesses that life is easier now because, as an athlete, he could barely afford milk for his daughter. The brother-in-law then says he should be the one thanking him, since our protagonist helped him get a job and a better life. The guy jokes with our boy, reminding him of the drink promise, but he just laughs and says he won't forget. From above, we see the two finishing their conversation, and the protagonist reflects that his life might seem tough. Arriving home, he's greeted by his little daughter, who runs to hug him with pure joy. As he lifts her into his arms, he finishes his thought, saying that despite everything, he feels incredibly happy just like this. He thinks he's so happy that if he could be born again, he'd want to live the exact same life all over. Playing with her dad, the little girl applies an armbar. Our guy praises his daughter, telling her she's getting really good at the move, and the girl happily agrees. Lying in bed, he says it's late, but his daughter begs to play a little more. He drifts off to sleep, wishing that this ordinary, happy day could repeat itself tomorrow. Suddenly, the happy scene starts to blur, and he hears his daughter's voice calling out to him. He wakes up to the little girl desperately calling his name. Still groggy, he asks for a little more sleep, but his daughter seems off. Just then, a strange-looking monster appears behind the little girl, ready to attack her. Seeing the imminent danger, our protagonist snaps awake and prepares to protect his daughter. In a swift move, he grabs the creature by the head before it could get to his child. On the ground, he spots a piece of rebar and realizes he can use it as a makeshift weapon. Without a second thought, he grabs the object to use against that metal monster. He positions himself in front of his daughter to shield her and faces the creature with a determined gaze. Then, with all his strength, he lands a powerful blow on the head of that strange thing. After hitting the monster, he scoops up his daughter even while on the ground. After getting up, a mirror beside him shows a silhouette. The strange silhouette of our protagonist catches his eye, making him look at the mirror. In the reflection of a broken piece of glass, the image becomes clearer and more terrifying. As he moves closer to his face, he realizes something is wrong with that reflection. Before he could understand, the glass shatters completely. Just then, a zombie bursts through the glass and lunges directly at them. The zombie quickly tackles him to the ground, pinning him with completely superhuman strength. Our young man tries to fight back with everything he's got, but the creature is much stronger than he imagined. Pinned to the floor, he uses his Jiu-Jitsu techniques to try and get out of this situation. With a great deal of effort, he manages to get his hands on the zombie's head to try and push it away. The creature snarls in anger as our guy continues to apply pressure, trying to break free. His goal now is to apply a hold to make the enemy pass out and finally end the fight. But he starts to doubt if a creature like that can even be knocked unconscious. Despite his doubt, he keeps squeezing with all his remaining strength to survive. With a horrifying sound, the creature's head separates from its body, flying clean off. Sitting on the floor, he's exhausted after that intense fight. With a shocked expression, our guy wonders if he really just took that being's life. Looking at the body on the floor, it seems the answer to his question is a terrifying yes. But suddenly, the creature's mouth begins to move, indicating the danger isn't over yet. This terrifies our young man even more, as he definitely wasn't expecting that. His daughter tells him to be quiet, and our boy apologizes, a bit confused by everything. He then looks around and wonders why on earth he and his daughter are in an abandoned mall. The problem is, his mind is a complete blank, and he can't remember a single thing. However, his distraction with his memories betrays him, and right in front of him is a massive horde of zombies. Suddenly, a new monster appears, but this one is just dancing in a very weird way. The zombie, looking like it came straight out of a K-pop group, dances in a pretty chill manner. Its moves are smooth. This zombie has got the sauce. The creature continues dancing through the mall, not caring that it's a villain in an apocalyptic world. However, our protagonist, in full flash mode, zips past the K-pop zombie, making it let out a high-pitched shriek. He keeps running with his daughter in his arms as the zombie horde chases after him. With a desperate expression, our guy runs as fast as he can to escape those creatures. Then he spots an exit door, but a zombie is standing right in front of it. The exit sign is cracked, but it's still the only hope of escape they have at that moment. With no time to waste, our boy sprints towards the door with the monsters right behind him. He manages to slam the door shut in the nick of time, escaping the clutches of one of the zombies that had almost reached him. He quickly locks the door and uses a sofa to block the way, ensuring their safety. Out of breath, he finally gets a moment to breathe after that chase. But a sudden scream grabs his attention, and our young man turns around, startled, to see what happened. He then comes face to face with what appears to be a soldier sitting on the stairs, a gun by his side. His daughter is also terrified by the person's appearance. The bony-looking soldier stares at our protagonist, while our guy thinks he doesn't like this one bit. He explains that 80% of humanity turned into one of those things because of an accident. Our guy asks for a phone to call his wife, but the soldier says they're already heading there, leaving him confused. The man then clarifies that he's talking about the military base because they need a radio to communicate. Protagonist seems suspicious. He insists he just needs to make one call to his wife, and the soldier agrees mockingly. The broken sign indicates they've reached their final destination, the building's rooftop. Worried, our boy asks if there are any monsters up there, but the man tells him not to worry. Then, the soldier reveals that his leg is injured and asks our guy to go ahead and open the door. He tells Mina to hide behind the man, but the little girl says she doesn't like that weird uncle. So the protagonist gets ready to open the door. Peeking through the door, our protagonist is completely shocked by the scene he finds on the rooftop. The place is infested with a gigantic horde of zombies and monsters of all kinds. He realizes the number of creatures is far greater than he could have ever imagined. Suddenly, he feels a sharp pain in his stomach and sees a red stain growing on his shirt. His eyes widen in shock as he finally understands what just happened to him. The bony soldier, a villain missing a front tooth, shoots the protagonist. Even after being shot, our protagonist lunges at that armed abomination. Though wounded, he manages to grab the soldier and apply a chokehold. Our guy fights with everything he has, trying to disarm the soldier before he can shoot again. The hold locks in cleanly on his neck, making the soldier grind his teeth, even the ones that are missing. Even with his neck being squeezed, the soldier manages to shoot our protagonist in the leg. With the shot to his leg, the protagonist stumbles back, giving the soldier some space. Our boy reaches out, trying to grab the gun before the man can shoot him again. However, he misses and grabs the goon's necklace instead. In that instant, he rips off the soldier's dog tag. Seeing he has no choice, the soldier starts pulling the trigger again. In the blink of an eye, the protagonist is hit by a burst from the enemy's rifle. He's hit by several shots consecutively. His body is riddled with holes. His daughter calls out to him desperately, tears in her eyes. Our protagonist falls to the ground, his body covered in blood. But surprisingly, the protagonist sits up on the floor with just a casual cough as the soldier closes the rooftop door. Inside the building, behind the door, the protagonist hears the soldier say that children aren't infected, so she's valuable. And there's a superstition about the children. which is why they're worth a lot of money. He then finishes by saying that these days, humans are just as dangerous as the infected. Tears stream from the young girl's eyes as she realizes the cruelty of this new world. With the door closed, the protagonist leans against it, listening to that cruelty. With his heart in his throat, he becomes furious at that closed door. Desperate, he tries to force the handle to get back, but the door is locked from the inside. As he screams for help, the creatures grab him from behind with immense force. Immediately, several zombies surround him, dragging him into the middle of the monstrous crowd. From above, we see the horde piling onto our boy's body, which disappears beneath them. The creatures begin to devour our protagonist without mercy. Completely immobilized, he can do nothing but feel the pain of being consumed. But even in this state, our young man extends his hand over the head of one of the monsters. With an inexplicable strength, he begins to fight back, pushing the creatures away from him. Suddenly, his left eye changes color, turning black with a sinister red pupil. He grabs the jaw of one of the zombies with his hands. With absurd strength, he rips the zombie in two. From behind, our boy slowly walks across that rooftop. He seems to walk as if something has been taken from him, completely without hope. Reaching the edge of the building, he just stands there. His dark eye and red pupil look down. Down below is the soldier, running with our guy's daughter. Blood trickles down his eye, looking like a Mangekyu Sharingan. Through his enhanced vision, he watches the traitor, who is taking his little girl to a truck. Showing pure rage, he utters his daughter's name. Without a second's hesitation, he launches himself forward and leaps from the top of that enormous building. The soldier, who looks like Skeletor, doesn't seem to notice the protagonist falling, but his partner does. In a freefall, our protagonist thinks that Daddy is coming to save his little girl. The soldier who noticed the protagonist asks the skeletal soldier what that thing falling from the building is. They're shocked. They've never seen an infected try to take its own life before. Meanwhile, our protagonist plummets at high speed. He stretches his hand out towards the walls of the building. He begins to apply pressure. With his arms and hands serving as brakes against the building's wall, his falling speed decreases. The effort he's applying to slow his descent is clear on his face. He continues to brake, now with his fingers. Despite the immense effort, the impact is still powerful as he hits one of the cars below the building. The traitorous soldier complains about the noise from the fall while his daughter stares at him with tear-filled eyes. But suddenly, everyone's expression changes to one of surprise, and it's our protagonist who emerges running towards the soldiers, screaming like a madman. The traitor's face is frozen in fear. The scene becomes chaotic as it's not just the protagonist attacking them, but a small horde as well. In a pure panic, the twitchy soldier starts firing at the protagonist without mercy. But our protagonist manages to dodge the bullets with impressive, superhuman speed. He continues running in a zigzag pattern. Furious, the soldiers start arguing because one of them has terrible aim. A soldier with better aim grabs the gun and takes aim at the protagonist. And this time, he hits the protagonist in the leg. Despite the intense pain, our guy doesn't slow down and keeps running full tilt. The soldier asks his partner if he's ever seen an infected this resilient. Despite his injuries, our protagonist pushes on. Even with all his speed, the truck continues to pull further and further away. In the vehicle, the little girl struggles and screams to be let go. But the soldier tells her to be quiet. The goon with the gun concentrates to land a fatal shot. One of the shots finally hits our boy in the head. The impact of the bullet on his head snaps his neck back, but his red eye continues to glow intensely, showing that he hasn't been defeated yet. Seeing that he hasn't given up and is chasing them again, the soldier yells at his partner to use a grenade and end it for good. The soldier promptly throws the explosive towards our young man. The grenade bounced right in front of the protagonist and exploded in his face. The massive explosion goes off as the soldiers just watch. In shock, the little girl screams in horror and reaches her hand towards the smoke from the blast. The soldiers look on relieved as the girl cries for the loss of her father. In the end, the truck drives away. On the road lies our boy's hand. Lying on the ground and severely injured, our guy weakly calls his daughter's name. Tears stream down his face as he realizes he failed to protect the person he loves most. Suddenly, several zombies, drawn by the noise, begin to approach his vulnerable body. From below, we see the silhouettes of the creatures ready to devour what's left of our boy. But something strange happens, and his arm begins to regenerate. We see the zombies from below again, and like a lizard that regrows its tail, he completely regenerates his lost arm. The zombie seems surprised by this. He then picks up the dog tag that was on the ground and squeezes it tightly. In his mind, he hears his daughter's voice calling for him from a happy memory. The little girl was complaining that he promised they would go out and play. This memory awakens an even greater fury. Suddenly, our guy gets up, his body completely healed. He seems confused by his own miraculous recovery. He opens his hand, still in shock. Suddenly, he hears a voice and turns to find a zombie sitting on a stool with its back to him. The creature says he brought him here because he saw he was being mistreated by other humans. The strange, zombie-like man assures him the place is safe and that he doesn't need to worry. Then he invites him to join him and do a little fishing to relax. But our young man isn't in the mood for talk and grabs the zombie by the collar. He tackles the zombie to apply his Jiu-Jitsu. The zombie is confused and a little embarrassed by the position they've ended up in. Our guy quickly moves and applies a hold on him. With a powerful armbar, he makes the man scream in pain from the force of the move. He continues his attack, and the creature asks why he's doing this to him. Suddenly, our young man stops, shocked, as he finally realizes this zombie can talk. With a bruised face, the man says it took him long enough to notice that little detail. Then the protagonist looks around and realizes he's in the middle of a swimming pool. The zombie then asks if our guy still has all his memories from his life as a human. He replies that it's urgent and asks for information about the nearest military base. Our guy apologizes for the arm, and the zombie explains that they don't regenerate like he does. The man adds that they just keep living in that broken state forever. Sitting with his arm all limp from the protagonist's armbar, he smokes his cigarette. He then reveals that he has no human memories and that our guy is the first one he's met like this. Our boy then realizes they can no longer be considered normal humans. His reflection in the dark water shows his glowing red eye. He then thanks him for the help but says he has to go, remembering that his daughter is waiting for him. Thinking of his daughter, our guy asks the man to help him get to the other side. The creature then looks at him and asks if he considers himself a human or one of them now. Our boy says it doesn't matter and that having a human heart makes him very dangerous. The man explains that, just like humans, they can't end their own lives either. But he adds that the way our guy attacked him makes him more human than monster. The zombie warns him that he won't just pass on from being sad, and if he steps in there, he's a goner. Our young man doesn't understand at all and just scratches his head in confusion. He then ignores the strange comment and asks how he can get to the other side. The zombie makes one last offer for our guy to stay with him, but our boy refuses the offer without hesitation, as his daughter is his only priority right now. The creature then warns him that this desire to save the girl will put everyone in danger in the end. With a grim look, the man says that, as expected, our young man will have to be stopped right here. Seeing that the conversation is going nowhere, our guy jumps to cross. The strange man just watches him in silence. Suddenly, the bobber on the fishing rod starts to move. Seeing the ripples in the water, he comments that he did warn him. Suddenly, other zombies with very bizarre appearances begin to emerge from the dark water. However, the protagonist grabs one of them and starts to crush its head. The zombie's skull bursts from the protagonist's fury. With that, all the zombies around him freeze in place. The zombies break out in a cold sweat from his power. Our protagonist, with a terrifying expression, makes them all tremble. Soon, all the zombies that were surrounding him submerged back into the water. Soon they all disappear from his sight. After resolving the situation, he turns to face the fisherman zombie. Now on the platform, our protagonist faces the zombie who is still fishing. The man then breaks into a bizarre smile, showing that he found the whole thing amusing. At that moment, he starts to chuckle. Our guy says that maybe he needs to break his other hand to snap the man back to his senses. The zombie then says that it's more important to go the right way than the fastest way. A few minutes later, the protagonist has already handled the situation and is now the one in command of the zombies. The man says that going straight to the military base isn't an option, and our young man asks why. The creature explains that there's a dangerous being there, while the water zombies argue. Our boy asks about this creature, and the man confirms that it's very dangerous while the zombies practice a dance in the water. However, a zombie suddenly decides to act and attacks the protagonist, thinking he's distracted. But the creature gets a flop to the face from our protagonist. The creature doesn't even touch him. They get back to the topic, and the zombie man explains it was a misunderstanding. Our young man is irritated, but the man says that not all zombies are as intelligent as they are. He continues, saying that some have powers, others follow orders, and a few possess intelligence. But most are guided only by hunger and the instinct to attack anything that moves. That's why it's not uncommon for them to attack their own kind. Our protagonist remains suspicious of that explanation and stares with a serious look. Seeing the distrust on his face, the zombie-like man gets a little nervous. He then asks our boy to trust him, pointing to his broken arm as proof. He offers to guide him through a safe route, but the young man says he doesn't care about the enemy. Our guy states that he will destroy anyone who dares to stand in his way of finding his daughter. His red eye glows intensely as he glares at someone. He then points his finger at a zombie that looks a lot like a square-headed Minecraft zombie. With a firm gesture, our young man orders him to take off his clothes, and the creature gets all embarrassed. The MC then turns and starts to walk away from that strange place. In a tunnel, a gorilla is having a little snack. Then the protagonist stares down the giant gorilla. The zombie man then reinforces his warning about the dangerous creature that lives on that path. The giant creature then lets out a strange and intimidating roar at the protagonist. The gorilla starts making some little noises, but before it could react, the protagonist attacks the gorilla first. With a blow to the gorilla's head, he takes the creature to the ground. He says that this means he's passing through and that he needs to find Mina as quickly as possible. A little ways from where the protagonist is fighting, there's a bar. Inside, several zombies are partying and dancing as if nothing is happening. In the middle of that bizarre party, the square-headed zombie starts to dance. His steps are captivating, he dances with mastery. His moves are like those of a K-pop group, well executed and synchronized. Until suddenly, he puts his hands on his knees and throws it back in a way that makes the female zombie's jaws drop. His movements continue at an impressive speed. The surrounding creatures are hypnotized by the sensual and groovy dance. However, the Night Star dancer is hit by the fight between our protagonist and the gorilla. They burst through the wall, sending the dancing zombies flying like bowling pins. Our protagonist is being choked, and one of his teeth has already been knocked out. The creature then lands a devastating punch on him. We see up close that the impact was violent, deforming our guy's face with its force. He then remembers seeing a similar technique on the internet. His red eye glows as he tries to remember the technique. In his mind, he visualizes a blog guide that teaches how to win a fight against animals. But he realizes the blog's technique isn't working. The fight between the two is so intense that the bar's sign starts to shake and the wall cracks. The cracks in the concrete wall grow larger and larger with the force of the exchanged blows. The gorilla then throws our guy against the wall with all its might, breaking the building's structure. With his face covered in blood, our young man continues to take a serious beating from that giant creature. Just then, he remembers what the zombie said about them not healing and living broken. With his red eye glowing intensely, he gets an idea to turn the tables in the fight. The giant monster tries to deliver the final blow to our boy. He then realizes that not even the gorilla can regenerate like he can, and this motivates him. Our young man warns that the creature's broken arm won't come back like his did before. Even all beaten up, our protagonist cracks a smile, because now he has a huge advantage and applies another armbar. With superhuman strength, he begins to twist the gorilla's arm. A loud crack echoes through the place as the creature's bone shatters into several pieces. The monster falls to the ground defeated, and our guy tosses its broken limb into the air. The giant creature is shocked and in immense pain, not expecting that turnaround. Though tired and injured, our young man stands up, victorious and ready to continue. Lying on the ground, the giant gorilla groans in pain while our young man looks at it seriously. Even defeated, the giant creature glares at him. Our guy wonders if it still wants to fight and prepares for the worst. With his red eye glowing intensely, he prepares to end it once and for all. But suddenly, two smaller creatures appear and start making the same sound as the gorilla. Confused, our boy just watches as the little ones approach the wounded monster on the ground. Then, the giant gorilla hugs the small creatures with its good arm in a gesture of affection. At that moment, our young man realizes that this was the family of the monster he attacked. With that, he decides to leave the family in peace and turns to leave the area. Then our protagonist runs without looking back, leaving the monster family in peace. In his mind, he focuses on his single objective, so as not to be distracted by anything else around him. He finally arrives at the military base, and his only thought is to find his daughter, Mina. Assessing the situation, he sees two guards and decides that climbing the wall is the best option. To do this, he grabs one of the zombies that followed him and runs towards the barbed wire fence. He then throws the creature with all his might onto the barbed wire to create a safe path. He then uses another zombie as a stepping stone to jump over the wall in one go. The noise attracts the attention of one of the guards, who is confused by the situation. Suddenly, our guy appears from behind, and the soldier asks what an infected is doing there. Our guy immobilizes him and asks about a soldier, promising not to hurt him if he cooperates. The other guard realizes his aim is off, and that it's useless to try and shoot from a distance. With that, the panicking guy fires wildly but doesn't hit our young man. Our boy then lets him go, and the gun falls to the ground. With his back turned, he just says there are important people he needs to see urgently. At that, he remembers his beloved daughter Mina, smiling and hugging her teddy bear. His other memory is of his wife Sola, smiling and reaching her hand out to him. Suddenly, several soldiers arrive and yell for him to surrender as they surround him. His red eye glows with intensity. With uncontrollable fury, he charges forward, thinking of the man who took his daughter. The soldiers are completely paralyzed with fear. Without hesitation, our protagonist charges and takes down the goon who took his daughter with a powerful blow. He throws the soldier to the ground with tremendous fury. He chokes that soldier on the ground with gigantic force. With a hate-filled gaze, our guy tells the man to bring his daughter back right now. Suddenly, a man points a gun at our boy's head, telling him to stop. This new character asks why he's looking for his daughter in this specific place. Our guy explains that this disgusting dude kidnapped the little girl and brought her here. With the gun still to his head, he says he just wants to find the little one and nothing more. The commander notices his red eye and asks if he's even human. Our boy remains silent, just staring at him with a cold, expressionless look. The man then asks if he's one of them or something else entirely. Our young man gets up and says he doesn't care about any of that, he just wants his daughter back. He reveals that the kidnapper said he was going to sell Mina to people who would pay a lot. The commander is confused by this revelation and asks what he means by that. Our guy says he ran into the guy earlier and got his ID during the fight. But the soldier on the ground screams for the commander not to listen to a psycho like him. The panicked soldier tries to shoot, but his gun doesn't fire, leaving him even more desperate. The commander furiously takes the soldier's weapon. The man then reprimands his subordinate for trying to shoot so close and with the safety on. The other goons remain silent, just watching the bizarre situation, not understanding a thing. Then one of the soldiers raises his hand and says he has important information for the commander. He says that Sergeant Lee did indeed bring a child from the store and describes her clothes and hairstyle. Hearing this, our young man recognizes the description immediately and shouts that that's his missing daughter. He then grabs the soldier and demands to know where Mina is, but the guy tells him to calm down. Our guy gets furious and shouts that he's the girl's father, startling the other soldiers. The goon says that if he goes now, he might be able to find her. The wounded man then screams for the guy to stop talking and shoot our young man as an order. Our boy turns to the soldier with a death glare and says that he's definitely done for. But the commander intervenes and tells him to stop as they are listening and just want to cooperate. Our young man is silent for a moment, seeming to consider the older man's words. He then says he hates to admit it, but he thinks he's finally understood what's going on. With that, the commander shouts for everyone who was on the mission with Sergeant Lee to take a step forward. One of the goons confirms the story and says they did indeed rescue a girl from the store. The group leader is intrigued because he received no report about that rescued child. The guy explains that it's not the first time Sergeant Lee has acted without reporting to anyone. Suddenly, the wounded soldier starts screaming desperately about some preventive action. The commander reprimands him, saying that even so, he should have reported what happened. Then the man is held back by the others while accusing the guy of framing a superior officer. Our guy gets tired of the shouting and lands a powerful punch right in the goon's face. The force of the blow is so great that the man is sent flying and hits the ground hard. With his face covered in blood, the soldier lies there on the ground, completely unconscious. Our boy just watches the scene with his cold gaze and red eye glowing with rage. The scene then changes, and we see the sign for a locker room showing a new location in the military base. Inside, the soldier Suman says it's impressive as he examines the protagonist's physique. The man explains that he has no injuries even after all that chaos. He then says it's protocol to check for hidden bites that could become a problem. The soldier then hands an eye patch to our young man and says it's an order from the commander. He explains that the problem is the eye's appearance and that it's a miracle no one has attacked him. Our boy remains silent, just processing the information from the older man. With that, the two start walking together down the corridor of that strange military base. The commander explains that the sergeant's trial will begin as soon as he wakes up again. In his mind, our guy remembers his daughter and focuses on his goal of finding her soon. Suddenly, a loud noise startles them both, and our young man questions this trial. Suman pulls our boy to the ground and shouts for them to stay away from the windows. The commander grabs his radio and reports that Sergeant Lee is attacking the base with everything he's got. Our young man asks what happened, and the man says Lee was supposed to be in the infirmary. The group leader then peeks through the door to see what's happening outside. At that moment, he sees Sergeant Lee fleeing in a jeep at high speed across the base. Without a second thought, our guy prepares to jump through the window after the fugitive. He then shatters the glass and leaps outside, leaving the man shocked. He lands on the ground after jumping from the window. With a determined face and the eye patch in place, he focuses only on his main objective. Sergeant Lee then floors the jeep and smashes through the base's gate to make his escape. Our protagonist runs at an incredible speed to try and catch up to the vehicle. In his mind, he thinks that he absolutely cannot lose sight of them again. With clenched teeth, he screams to himself that he can't let that happen. Suddenly, a soldier on a motorcycle appears, and our boy says he's going to bring the sergeant back. Soldier Suman is completely confused by the situation. Our young man then jumps on the bike and tells the goon to hit the gas to catch the fugitive. The driver says the bike will be slower, but our guy yells that it's still better than being on foot. On the radio, the commander asks who is on the motorcycle pursuing Sergeant Lee. The soldier then identifies himself and reports that he is in pursuit of the fugitive from the base. Over the radio, the commander announces that he will send reinforcements to help with the capture. Suddenly, the communication starts to fail, and the guy realizes the signal is getting weak. The commander's final message is cut off, and they can only hear words like capture and Kurgent. The last word they manage to hear from the commander is priority, before the radio goes silent. The soldier then nods in agreement and guns the motorcycle to continue the pursuit. With that, the motorcycle's tire screeches on the asphalt as they gain speed amidst the debris. The two then proceed at high speed through the destroyed city to catch up to the fugitive ahead. From their perspective, Sergeant Lee's jeep gets closer and closer on the horizon of that road. Our young man then asks if the guy can shoot out the tires, and he says to use his rifle. Without wasting time, our boy grabs the weapon and prepares to fire while the bike is moving. With his red eye glowing intensely, he aims carefully to hit the target. He then fires twice but ends up missing the jeep's tires. Our guy tells the driver to hold on tight and says he just needs one more shot to hit it. The soldier then accelerates the bike even more to give our young man a better chance. Suddenly, our boy loses his balance and ends up dropping the gun in the middle of the chase. The goon jumps off the bike in a swift motion and manages to catch the rifle in mid-air before he falls. He then lands on the ground and points the weapon at the vehicle. With a serious and determined look, the soldier faces our protagonist, ready to shoot. The soldier then aims with precision and hits the moving jeep's tire dead on. The goon tells our young man to hand over the weapon and boasts about his sharpshooting. With the rifle in his hands, the guy fires once more with impressive aim. The bullet hits the rear of the vehicle, which continues at high speed down the street. With that, the two get back on the motorcycle and continue the pursuit of the jeep. They then push the bike to its maximum speed to ensure the fugitive doesn't get away. They notice that the man has turned the corner. With a tight turn, Soldier Suman pulls off a dangerous maneuver, but makes it. His red eye glows intensely as he calmly analyzes the situation. Suddenly, Sergeant Lee gets out of the jeep and throws a grenade in their direction. The guy aims his gun at the fugitive, but our young man spots the incoming grenade. With wide eyes, the soldier focuses on the grenade. The grenade flies through the air, but Soldier Suman hits it dead on. At that moment, a massive explosion occurs and the soldier screams in despair. With a shocked face, the guy can't believe what just happened, but with his red eye glowing intensely, protagonist tries to grab that soldier, but something hits the protagonist at high speed. He is thrown far away. A small van runs over the protagonist. From above, our young man observes the scene with the fallen soldier and the vehicles stopped on the street. The soldier then sees 7 armed men and wonders if they work for the sergeant. He then worries about our boy's condition and knows that backup might not arrive. With that, he decides the best thing to do is to hide among the buildings as soon as the van leaves. But to his surprise, the van remains stationary, not moving an inch. Crouching, he waits for the right moment for the van to move away so he can escape. Suddenly, he notices something, and his escape plan is interrupted by a crucial detail. At that moment, he realizes he forgot something obvious by focusing on Sergeant Lee. He then realizes that all the noise has attracted a horde of infected to the location. In a flashback, the guy remembers his training about the infected in a classroom. The instructor explained that it was necessary to damage the brain and sever the spinal nerves. With a cold sweat on his face, he remembers the question about encountering several infected alone. The answer was to use a grenade on himself, and now he faces a horde coming his way. The soldier then holds the grenade in his hand, but decides it's not the right time yet. He thinks he needs to wait for the largest number of creatures to gather before detonating the explosive. With a sad look, the guy then remembers our protagonist and hopes he's okay. His expression changes to one of total panic as he witnesses the bizarre scene unfolding. Suddenly, the infected start to dance ballet gracefully instead of attacking. Crouched on the ground, the goon watches the scene, not understanding what's happening. With a shocked face, the guy wonders if he's going completely insane. He then thinks that isn't like facing death and watches a creature strike a pose. Sweating nervously, the soldier wipes his face and tries to process the bizarre scene before him. He watches a group dancing and wonders if they are high-level intelligent infected. At that moment, his eyes widen in surprise as he notices an important detail. He realizes the infected have expressions, and their gestures show a strange desperation. Just then, another ballerina monster appears, showing off its moves. Soldier Suman realizes that this isn't just a ritual before they devour him. Soon, the zombie horde begins a synchronized choreography. He then hears desperate voices begging for help and saying they don't want to perish. Utterly confused, the guy wonders why they are dancing in such a weird way. Broken Arm Zombie emerges from among the dancers. Broken Arm slowly walks forward. On the other side of the street, our protagonist is crouched, watching. With his red eye glowing intensely, our boy assesses the situation very seriously. The protagonist and Broken Arm stare each other down. In response, our young man's red eye glows even brighter, showing his determination. The creature then tips its hat to the MC. Soon, all the zombies say they are happy the protagonist is alive. The camera focuses on the creature's feet, which are on point like true ballerinas. The soldier is confused to see the infected fleeing and asks if our young man is okay. With his hand on his eye patch, our guy seems disoriented and asks where they are. The guy questions if he's lost his memory and explains they were chasing Sergeant Lee. Suddenly, our boy feels a sharp headache and the goon runs to help him. He then remembers the chase and becomes furious for having lost sight of the fugitive. With wide eyes, the soldier is surprised by our young man's sudden reaction. At that moment, Suman shouts loudly and threatens to shoot if anyone moves. The same person then asks if this is some kind of human hunt happening here. With that, a hooded woman and a child appear and desperately ask for help. The scene then shifts to the facade of an abandoned arcade, showing where they took shelter. Inside, the woman explains that her group was attacked and asks to be taken to a shelter. She begs for help and says she can't waste time because they will both perish if they stay there. Meanwhile, the child eats a chocolate bar and eyes the gun the soldier is holding. Our young man then closes his eyes for a moment, seeming to have made a final decision. He asks the soldier to take the woman and child to the shelter and says he will look for his daughter. With a determined look, he asks for details of the vehicle and swears he will find his daughter no matter what. The guy mentions a white 8-seater van and tattoos, but says searching alone is impossible. He then asks the woman if men with tattoos took his daughter, and she confirms it immediately. With a sad look, the woman reveals that her child was also taken by the same group of men. Our boy remains silent, processing the new information he just received from the woman. The woman then suggests that perhaps his daughter is at their shelter, leaving our young man surprised. She explains that they buy children to rescue them from trafficking, and that they bought some just yesterday. Our guy describes Mina and asks if she is there, but the woman suggests he go check for himself. Our young man then agrees and says he can visit the kidnappers' base after the check. The soldier warns him, saying that following a stranger is a huge risk and that he should think carefully. The word risk echoes in his mind as he thinks about what to do next in that situation. But in his mind, he sees Mina's face and decides that no risk matters if it's to save her. We see the front of a blue truck. The group then arrives at a gate guarded by two more hooded figures. An older man says there are no exceptions, and the woman asks our boy to do it for her. Our young man then turns and calls the soldier by his full name, Suman. The goon then answers our boy's call with a serious expression. The two take off their clothes, and the old man says it's to prevent infected from entering the base. The older man is impressed by our guy's physique, and he says it was luck. The older man falls silent and stares at our boy with a very serious look. Our young man is confused and asks if the man is talking about some injury. To everyone's surprise, the older man suddenly blushes. With a cold sweat on his face, our boy is completely shocked by the old man's reaction. The older man then approaches and asks why he doesn't take off his eye patch. The old man tries to remove the patch, but our young man grabs his hand to stop him. The man insists, saying that hiding something is suspicious and that he really wants to see. The soldier then intervenes and says that showing that eye won't help at all. Our young man argues that he's already taken everything off, but the man says there are no exceptions. While saying he's the one who decides, the old man points a gun at the soldier's head and tells our hero to behave. In a swift move, our young man easily disarms the older man. With that, our boy takes him down with a move and holds his clothes to immobilize him. Using the man's own clothes, our young man immobilizes him with a quick movement. With that, the older man falls to the ground, and the soldier watches the scene, totally shocked. Our boy then holds the old man's head, who asks what he's doing. He then explains that he wasn't going to hurt him, and that if he wanted to, he would have already finished him. Suddenly, the older man says he's making things unnecessarily difficult. With that, more hooded figures appear, and the man says everything would be resolved with the eye patch. The old man then asks if perhaps he wants to be kicked out by force. The man tells him to take off the eye patch if he doesn't want to perish. With a cold gaze, the older man tells him to take off the eye patch if he doesn't want to perish soon. In his thoughts, the protagonist knows he can win, but it would reveal his powers to everyone. A drop of sweat rolls down his chin, showing the tension of that decisive moment. Suddenly, the woman who accompanied them appears and shouts that he is the benefactor who saved her. The hooded figures then say they just need to confirm that our young man isn't infected. One of the men from the shelter grumbles in frustration at our boy's stubbornness. Our guy then puts his hand to his head and falls silent, seemingly having made a decision. He then removes the eye patch and makes up a story that his eye lost its vision in an accident, which is why he hides it. The old man complains but says he'll prepare a place for them, but our young man says he needs to see his daughter. The older man then yells at him, asking if he wants to wake up all the sleeping children. Our boy just remains silent in the face of the old man's shouting. One of the hooded figures apologizes for the old man's stubbornness, and our guy admits he was also in the wrong. Our young man then agrees to wait and says he'll wait until the next morning. The soldier just observes the situation with a very tired expression on his face. In the room, the guy suggests taking watch shifts, and our guy says that following strangers is risky. He then says he's not sleepy and will take the first watch to keep an eye on the place. With that, the soldier lies down to rest while our boy stands guard in the room. He thinks he's not sleepy because of the nervousness of the whole situation. With his hand on his face, he continues to reflect on what might happen in that strange place. He then decides to take a walk around the shelter since he can't sleep anyway. Suddenly, our guy remembers the watch shift he arranged with Soldier Suman. To make sure the guy looks awake, he draws eyes on his eyelids with a pen. We see the night sky. Walking through the shelter's courtyard, our boy comes across a child standing there in the dark. Our young man is confused and watches the child, not understanding what he's doing there alone. The child is then shown holding a very old and worn-out soccer ball. In a swift move, the child throws the ball towards our protagonist, who is surprised. With a smile, the child asks our young man to pass the ball back to him. Our boy says it's late, but the child insists, saying he's leaving tomorrow. With a smile, our guy agrees to play for just 10 minutes with the little boy. He then holds the ball and asks the child what his name is at that moment. The boy introduces himself as Mayung, and our young man realizes he's the same age as his daughter. Mayung then suggests the three of them play together later, and our boy throws the ball. The full moon is shining in the night sky as they have fun. After a while, our guy says the 10 minutes are up and they need to go to sleep. He then picks the boy up but is confused when the boy says he doesn't have a mother. Our young man then remembers that the woman just said child and not daughter to him. With a blushing face, little Mayung looks at our guy with a very shy expression. The boy then says he wants to sleep with him because he sees him as a father figure and likes it. Hearing that, our young man falls silent, and his expression suddenly becomes very serious. At that moment, he remembers his own family and the photo he treasures so much. They get cozy in bed. In a memory, he's in bed with his wife, who is looking at him in a confused way. His daughter Mina then appears in the bed and says she wants to sleep with them too. The couple talks about how the little one is growing up and will soon be going to school. With a smile, The little girl says she likes using her dad's arm as a pillow. Back in the present, our guy hugs Myung with a very affectionate look on his face. The scene focuses on the little boy sleeping peacefully in our young man's arms. With a slight smile, our boy watches the child sleeping in his arms. The scene shows our guy sleeping with the boy while the soldier rests in the other bed. The sun has risen, and the shelter's facade is shown at the start of a new day. In the dining hall, our young man and the soldier get food with the other shelter residents. A hot soup is served, and a voice says they can get seconds later if they want. The woman explains that besides farming, they also gather vegetables in the mountains. As they walk, our boy thinks they are good people but worries about the group's survival. Sitting at the table, the soldier says the head count will be at 8, and then they can look for Mina. Eating his soup, our guy just hopes that his daughter is in that place. Our young man then thinks that he still hasn't thanked Soldier Suman for all his help. Suddenly, his eyes widen in terror. In front of him, Soldier Suman drops his soup bowl and suddenly collapses to the floor. With a look of pure terror, our guy watches, not understanding what's happening. He then realizes his friend has passed out, and the hooded figures are staring at him with glowing eyes. The woman who led them there cracks a bizarre and frightening smile at our young man. He remembers the soldier saying that following strangers always carries risks and that you have to be cautious. At that moment, our boy understands they've fallen into a very dangerous trap. The woman continues with her evil smile as a strange sound echoes through the place. Our young man then feels his body grow weak and faints on the dining hall table. He wakes up to find a woman on her knees. She then seems to be gnawing on something desperately, as if she were starving. Suddenly, the girl is revealed to be a bizarre monster with sharp teeth and red eyes. The creature tries to get closer to our guy. With wide eyes, our young man sees the creature's hand very close to his face. In a swift move, the creature tries to attack but can't reach him. Sweating nervously, our boy looks terrified, but the soldier says the creature can't reach them. Our guy analyzes the situation and says that if they wanted to do away with them, they've had plenty of chances. Just then, the woman who tricked them appears at the door, and he says he was looking forward to this. With an annoyed look, the woman complains that the older men are useless and can't do anything right. With a wicked smile and holding a knife, she says they don't know how to wait for the right time to slaughter. Our boy asks what she means, and the woman just stares at him with a smile on her face. Soldier Suman then tries to negotiate and says he can take them to a safe military base. Our guy then thinks that the military prioritizes children and others would be less important. The woman scoffs at the soldier and asks if he thinks they've never tried to go to the base before. Our young man asks if the story about rescuing children was a lie, and she says it's true. Hearing this, he desperately asks if his daughter Mina is really in that place. The woman seems surprised by the question and looks at our boy with a confused expression. Suddenly, the sound of muffled laughter echoes through the place, making the situation even more tense. She then can't hold it in and starts laughing uncontrollably at our young man's question. Our guy is shocked and confused by the woman's bizarre reaction as she won't stop laughing. She then stops laughing and asks if he thinks she gathers children because she's some kind of saint. Our boy asks why she gathers children, and the woman talks about a bizarre rumor involving cannibalism. With that, she reveals that she feeds her daughter children to try and make her human again. The scene focuses on the creature devouring something desperately, appearing to be very hungry. With a satisfied smile, the woman watches her daughter feeding in that way. The soldier yells that this is insane, but the woman says that to him, it must seem foolish. He notices the little ball belonging to the child he played with the day before. With wide eyes, our young man is in shock. At that moment, he remembers the little boy Myung, with whom he played ball the previous night. Our boy then glares at the woman with a look of pure hatred and tries to say something to her. With a trembling voice, he asks if she was responsible for the end of all the children there. She says she only fed her daughter and that it was a necessary sacrifice for her. Desperate, our young man asks about Myung's whereabouts, unable to believe what has happened. The woman then pauses for a moment, seeming to try and remember who he's talking about. With a smile on her face, she seems to remember the boy and lets out a small sound of surprise. Then she asks mockingly if that was really the little boy's name. With clenched teeth, our guy is filled with uncontrollable fury at that moment. A scream of pure rage echoes through the place as a red aura explodes around him. Before the protagonist could react with his power, She struck his head with the axe. Soldier Suman stares at the scene with wide eyes, unable to process what just happened. With her face stained red, the woman cracks a wicked smile and looks at our boy. The scene then cuts to a flashback of Soldier Suman with a very serious expression on his face. He seems to be remembering something important that happened before that tragic moment. In his memory, a superior yells at him, asking if he's slacking off on duty. At that moment, the memory focuses on a suggestion box locked with a padlock. The scene changes to a building that appears to be the military base where the soldier served before. Inside a truck, a goon complains about another for questioning a sergeant's orders. The guy then says they would either find the girl's parents or the base would protect her from all harm. But the sergeant yells that it would be too complicated to find the parents and the procedures would be a nightmare. He then turns to another soldier and asks if he's right, and the guy agrees fearfully. The sergeant complains about the state of the world, and the guy just apologizes with a sad expression. In his mind, Soldier Suman realizes he had stopped thinking for himself. He thought that everyone acted like cogs in a machine without questioning the orders they received. The soldier just watched everything, feeling like a useless part of that machine. He then thinks that if he had just stayed quiet, things might have been very different. But he approaches his commander and says he has something important to report. The guy says the sergeant brought a child, and he felt he had to do something. At that moment, Suman tried to confess his mistakes to maintain his dignity as a person. But before he could finish his thought, something pulls him out of his memories. Back in the present, the woman tells him to pull himself together and asks how things got to this point. The soldier stares at her with a look of pure terror, not understanding the situation he's gotten himself into. She then offers for him to join them, saying it would be good to have a young man in the group. The guy then blames himself, thinking he was too complacent with the whole situation. He remembers when he met our guy and found out he was some kind of arena challenger. He then remembers our guy's warning about the risks of following strangers. Crying, he blames himself for not seeing the mistake and for trusting them without thinking. The woman approaches him and asks cynically if he's actually crying. With a shout, she draws everyone's attention to mock the crying soldier. While crying, the soldier apologizes, and the woman glares at him with utter contempt. She throws him to the ground and questions him about his plan to negotiate and escape. The hooded figures then start beating him while she tells him to act like he did before. Lying on the ground and crying, the guy can only apologize repeatedly. The woman then calls him by his name and glares at him with utter contempt. He thinks he had many chances to avoid all of this, like writing a letter. One of the men says the soldier seems to have gone crazy, but the woman says it's normal. Suddenly, the woman's eyes go wide as if she's realized something very strange. The soldier remains on the floor, crying non-stop in the face of this desperate situation. A bizarre creature emerges from the shadows and attacks the hooded figures by surprise. The soldier just screams in terror at the terrible scene happening in front of him. The creature then reveals itself. It's our protagonist, who roars on top of a table. The hooded figures are terrified by the scene and scream, not understanding what's happening. The woman then yells for the old men to shoot the creature before it's too late. On that autopsy table, the protagonist is hit by several shots. Soldier Suman then cries as he realizes the monster is our boy, transformed. The men panic when they see our guy's body regenerating rapidly. The soldier immediately remembers the day he was being chased by that creature. Even after being hit by several shots, he didn't stop running, making him unable to believe who he really was. On the day his daughter was kidnapped. Back in the present, the soldier realizes that our guy was the infected from that day. In his monstrous form, our young man says he needs to get home, no matter what. With a terrifying look, he says he has guests and needs to welcome them. One of the cultists attacks the protagonist with a blade. The blade comes quickly towards his abdomen. He screams for the protagonist to perish. But to the man's surprise, the protagonist seems to not react after being stabbed. Our guy's eye slowly turns towards the man. At that moment, the attacker starts to back away, stammering. Suddenly, the man begins to scream in agony. Soldier Suman cries as he watches, while the woman is clueless. With a swift move, our young man grabs the man by the head and lifts him up. With his mouth, he lifts the man. He bites the man as if he were an animal. With great force, he throws the man's body against the ground without any mercy. The other cultists panic, and the woman screams for them to tie him up somewhere. One of the cultists then grabs a gun and aims at our young man. He then fires several times, and the shots hit our boy's chest, but he doesn't stop. One of the shots hits our guy in the head, but he continues to advance without hesitation. With a swift move, our young man grabs the man's gun with great force. He then gets very close to the goon. The man's eyes are wide, unable to believe what he's seeing. Our guy attacks the man while another cultist approaches from behind with a knife. The other attacker then prepares to strike him from behind with his knife. Just as the knife was about to hit him square on, our guy's friend hits one of the cultists, making him miss the blade's strike. Soon, the protagonist glares at the old man with pure hatred. He decides to use his own mouth against the goon, and starts tearing off his limbs with his mouth like an animal. The protagonist stands up as everyone watches, and 3 of them have already been taken out for good. Soldier Suman is completely paralyzed with fear, unable to say a word. Our guy then approaches him. With a stained face and one glowing eye, our young man stares at the soldier. Suddenly, a strange growl comes from our boy's mouth, who seems unstable. His eye glows intensely, and he appears to be losing control. Our protagonist then grabs his head with his hands and seems to be in great pain. He lets out some grunts as he struggles to stay conscious in that moment. Our young man approaches the soldier, who stares back. He just mutters his own name, as if trying to calm himself down somehow. Our boy asks what happened and why he's there like that. Suman thinks fast and realizes he needs to explain everything before it's too late. With a trembling voice, he tries to start telling our protagonist what happened. The soldier then reveals that the cultists were responsible for Mayang's end. Our young man is silent for a moment, processing that terrible information. He seems to be controlling himself so as not to explode with rage again at the news. Soon, he uses his eye to look around as if searching for something. He looks around. He then remembers the food served in the kitchen and, in a nearby bin, some pieces of meat. With an expression of disgust, he finally understands what they did to the children. The memory of the woman saying she bought children to rescue them comes back to his mind. And he also remembers that the little ones were immune and worth a lot of money on the market. Back in the present, our boy glares at the remaining cultists with a deadly look. With great anger, he grabs one of the men by his robe and lifts him effortlessly. Then he stomps hard on the ground. Then, with the hooded figure in his hands, he prepares to throw the dead man. In a brutal move, he throws the man. The hooded figure's body hits another goon. Without wasting time, our young man runs towards the others. He reaches one of them and holds him firmly. With a final blow, our boy throws the man to the ground. With a menacing look, our young man tells the woman to immediately stop what she's doing. She then threatens our guy and says that if he moves, his friend will pay the price. But the soldier shouts that he's fine and that the cultists are the real culprits. Our protagonist asks what she wants, and the woman tells him to go back to the basement from before. He then questions why she hurts humans when she could feed on the infected. The woman calls him crazy and asks if he wants to get infected by eating those creatures. With a serious expression, our boy seems to understand something important from her answer. He then faces her and asks rhetorically if he looks human to her. The woman is in shock at the question and can't say anything back to our guy. She stares at him with wide eyes as a strange sound echoes through the place. Soon, creatures begin to emerge after the protagonist infected the woman's friends. They get up. The protagonist just watches. The zombies seem to be in immense pain. Even the group leader is surprised by our boy's unexpected action. Suddenly, the woman starts to feel an immense pain in her eye. She then screams desperately in pain from our protagonist's surprise attack. We see the dark sky as only desperate screams can be heard. Lying on the ground, she says she can't become a monster to be able to care for her daughter. He then reflects on the monsters, the infected, and the humans who hurt each other. Looking down at her, our young man asks what the difference is between her and one of the infected. With a lost look, he can only whisper the name of his beloved daughter, Mina. With a wicked smile, the woman asks if Mina is his daughter's name, just to provoke him. Our protagonist is shocked and wonders how she could know his little one's name. His friend thinks she's delirious, but our boy knows he never said the last name. The woman remembers the child, and our guy grabs her, asking what she did with his daughter. He holds her tightly and screams, wanting to know where Mina is while she laments. With a gun in her hand, pointed at her own head, and crying. With tears and a bizarre smile, she says he should experience hell too. A gunshot echoes and red splatters fly across our protagonist's face. The woman then falls to the ground, and our boy stands there, motionless. His hand starts to tremble violently as he stares at what she just did. At that moment, Soldier Suman shouts his name and tells our young man to be careful. Suddenly, one of the creatures lunges from behind our protagonist. But before it could hit the MC, he applies another Jiu-Jitsu move, easily getting rid of the creature. And since he's addicted to armbars, This time he did it differently and applied one to the leg. With hatred, he applies pure force to the creature's leg. He breaks the creature's leg and throws it far away, but another one attacks immediately. The protagonist, with his leg, prepares a sweep on the creature, and easily, with the other, he moves over the monster. With these moves, he takes the zombie to the ground, and furiously, the protagonist gets up, and with a stump, he hits the zombie's face, finishing it instantly. With a dark look, he says the woman was wrong about what hell is. The other monsters run furiously towards our boy. Our guy then clenches his fist tightly, preparing for the fight to come. He grabs one of the monsters by the hood and repeats that they are all wrong. With an acrobatic move, he kicks the monster's face with great precision and force. The kick lands squarely on the creature with a very strong impact sound. Without giving the being time to react, our young man easily finished it off. He then says that a place without his dear daughter Mina has already become hell. With an empty gaze and a bleeding eye, he reinforces that this place is hell. Another monster tries to attack him, but he dodges and grabs the monster. Our young man throws the monster to the ground, but more and more monsters come to attack him. Some manage to bite. His eyes, like the Sharingan, show it and make his reflexes faster, and with his fighting skills, he could easily handle those monsters. They were punches filled with hatred that he unleashed on those monsters. His eyes showed such pure hatred for not being with his daughter. With his body wounded but healing, the protagonist was out of breath. With his back to us, he takes a deep breath, holding the monsters' heads in his hands. Soldier Suman calls him by his name. With a serious expression, the guy just calls back, waiting for an answer. With tears in his eyes, our young man asks the question he feared most if his daughter Mina was gone. Soldier Suman remains silent and looks away, unable to answer the question. The lack of an answer is enough, and our protagonist hangs his head, completely devastated. Suman then places a cloak on our young man's shoulders, trying to comfort him. With tears streaming down his face, our boy silently weeps for the supposed loss of his daughter. Suman just looks away, not knowing what to say. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls for Daddy, reigniting his hopes. They quickly turn to see who was calling for Daddy. The protagonist, still crying, is shocked. Our young man's eyes widen and he can barely process it. Standing there is Mina, his daughter, whom he believed he had lost forever. The little girl cries desperately as she calls for her father with a trembling voice. Without a second thought, our protagonist runs towards the girl with all his strength. With a cry of emotion, he runs as fast as he can to reach his beloved daughter. The little one continues to cry with her arms outstretched, waiting for her father's hug. Tears continue to stream down his face as he gets closer and closer to her. He approaches the little girl. He finally reaches her and hugs her with all the strength in the world, unable to believe it's real. With dirty hands and a wet face, he holds her tightly, afraid it's just a dream. He held her tightly, crying. Soldier Suman watches also in disbelief. However, Suman noticed it wasn't his daughter, but the boy from the previous night who saw him as a father. Sometime later, they return to the gas station where they last separated. He recalls telling the boy that he needed to go find his lost daughter. With a gentle smile, he had said that Mayung was a good boy and would understand the situation. The little one had then nodded in agreement, even though he was sad about having to separate. But the little boy reminded him of a promise that could not be broken under any circumstances. Mayung reminds him of the promise that he and our guy's daughter would play together one day. The memory shows the happy image of them having fun together like a small family. A small smile forms on our young man's face. In the memory, our boy confirms the promise, and little Mayung celebrates happily. Soon, he tells the boy to go to the post where the military is while he stays hidden with Suman. Our protagonist then makes a shushing gesture to the boy. The little one gets the message and copies our young man's gesture with a smile on his face. They return to the blue truck. He tells Suman that he doesn't blame him and asks him to return to the base with the little boy. The soldier just remains silent and lowers his head, unable to face our guy. Remembering how he cried, he laments and says that if he had acted sooner, none of this would have happened. He then says he could have avoided all of this if he had tried to stop it earlier. With a clenched fist, he declares that his mission is to find our young man's daughter at all costs. Our protagonist listens to everything in silence with a serious expression on his face. But soon after, a small smile of approval forms on his lips. The soldier then suggests they treat each other more casually and call him Big Brother. Suman says he feels more comfortable that way, and the two set off together on their new mission. We return to the place where that cruel woman committed those atrocities. Meanwhile, the cultist woman remains on the ground. Suddenly, her eye opens, revealing a sinister red pupil similar to the protagonist's. Elsewhere in the city, our protagonist and the soldier continue their relentless search for Mina. They stop a survivor in the middle of the street to try and get some useful information. However, the goon in the cap seems to shake his head, not wanting to get too involved in the conversation. Without giving up, the duo continues their journey through the city in search of any clue about the girl. With that, they approach another man in front of a gate, hoping he might know something. The two companions look at him with a serious expression. They return to the search with the blue truck. They arrive at a more remote location. An old man says he hasn't seen a girl, but has seen people with skull centipede tattoos. Our young man asks where to find them, and the man says they sold everything, even people. Suman then asks what happened, and the old man says he didn't get involved because they were crazy. On his way out, the man invites them to a plaza, and Suman asks why. He explains that he deals with a group that has many children, and this could help them in their search. Our guy decides to stay and investigate and tells Suman to go get the motorcycle. Alone, Suman revs the motorcycle, preparing to continue his search for information. The man says it's dangerous to go alone, but our guy replies that time is of the essence for him. Now in another part of the city, the protagonist is wielding a large axe. With a precise blow, our boy cuts off the head of the creature that was in his path. The being's head rolls on the ground. With a cold gaze, our protagonist faces the situation without showing a hint of fear. At that moment, the man in the cap appears and says he arrived just in time. The protagonist thanks him for the help, but the goon tells them to get straight to the point. Suddenly, the man pulls out a gun and points it at our young man's head. It's then revealed to be an ambush, with several armed men surrounding our protagonist. With a wicked smile, the man says he's going to take the vehicle and all the supplies he has. Our boy asks what's happening, and the old man says he needs to disappear forever. Our guy asks if he's not worried about the soldier. The old man says everything will be covered up. With the gun still pointed, the man says the world works this way now, without rules. But our young man just gives a smirk, showing he's not the least bit intimidated. Suddenly, our guy bends down and picks up the head of the monster he just defeated. The man in the cap looks disgusted and utterly confused about what's happening. With the head in his hand, he raises his hand, and the goon asks what he's doing with that. Our young man holds the monster's head high in the air. Suddenly, a shot goes through the monster's skull. With that, everyone is surprised by what just happened. At that moment, we see the truck. We go back in time. In the blue truck, on their way to where they are now, we are shown his conversation with Suman about not trusting anyone 100%. Back in the present, our boy says he didn't trust them one bit either. He warns that there are snipers aiming at them from all sides, and that they can test it. With that, our guy demands they put all their weapons and ammunition in the truck. The man in the cap gets desperate and asks him to forget everything, saying it was a mistake. With a cold gaze, our young man calls him crazy and says he doesn't know what a mistake is. The goon then offers information, but our boy repeats that he never trusted him. One of the henchmen reveals that every Saturday night, loud music comes from the Exco concert hall. The man guarantees he'll find something there, but our boy finds the information useless. The goon explains that with people scattered, it's better to go where there are crowds to get information. Our young man seems to consider the new lead and remains silent for a moment, analyzing everything. They then go to the Exco concert hall, a huge building. Our boy and the soldier enter the place carefully. Our guy finds it suspicious that there are no guards, and the soldier believes they've been tricked again. Suddenly, loud music starts playing, and the two are completely shocked. Our young man tells Suman to go back, but the soldier decides to infiltrate through the ceiling to provide cover. The guy insists that in the current situation, it's safer, and he can provide cover if something happens. Our boy just remains silent and seems to agree with his partner's risky plan. Meanwhile, Soldier Suman opens a door to find a path to the building's ceiling. Climbing the stairs, he wonders why they would make so much noise since it attracts the infected. He continues cautiously up the concrete steps, not knowing what awaits him at the top. Reaching the upper floor, the soldier is shocked by something. A group of monsters descending the stairs at high speed to the sound of Linkin Park. In a close-up, we see the bizarre faces of those creatures, with black eyes and disturbing smiles. The soldier then realizes immediately that the whole thing was just a big trap for them. Meanwhile, our protagonist approaches a large red door from where the music is coming. Carefully, he peeks through the crack in the door to see what's happening inside the hall. His eye widens instantly, and he is shocked by the bizarre scene he has found. Stage, a blonde girl dressed like an idol dances energetically to the loud music. In disbelief, our young man throws the doors wide open to get a better view of that show. It's then revealed to be a full-blown concert with a crowd waving light sticks for the girl. Our boy's expression is one of pure incredulity, and he can't process what he's seeing. Back on the stairs, the monsters pass by Soldier Suman. Thinking he would be attacked, he takes a step back, but the monsters are already too close. Desperate, he screams as the monsters advance. With no way to defend himself, Suman falls to the ground. Creatures pass by him, pushing him aside. But something surprising happens. To Soldier Suman, the monsters didn't attack him, they just ignored him. The soldier sits on the floor, completely confused, not understanding what just happened. With a cold sweat on his face, he tries to process why he wasn't attacked. The zombies just ran towards the music. Meanwhile, on the concert stage, the bright lights continue to shine intensely in the hall. Our protagonist remains paralyzed and in shock, unable to believe what he's seeing. The girl on stage has a pretty beauty, and her eyes are not like the protagonist's blood red, but a gentle pink. With a devilish smile and a wink, she strikes a pose for the crowd, which screams in delirium. The audience is made up of various monsters and infected who act like fans obsessed with the idol. At that, our young man's eye glows, and he realizes he might be able to get information from the infected. With this new idea, he starts walking towards the crowd of monsters without any fear. He approaches a group and asks if they've seen people with centipede tattoos. One of the infected monsters seems to dislike him for killing the vibe. He yells that it's too loud and complains that our boy is interrupting Lucy's show. The protagonist can't believe it as the zombie keeps saying he's ruining his enjoyment of the concert. But another monster defends him and says that maybe he's a new member of the Lucid Dream fan club. Losing his patience, our young man yells that the show isn't important and that he needs to find someone. However, after saying it, he realizes he's made a huge mistake. With that, the crowd of monsters stops looking at the stage and turns to stare at our boy. With a look of pure hatred, the monsters ask if he really just dissed Lucy.